How about now? Oh, there we go. Boom. Folks, lovely to be here with you as always. Folks, it's been quite some time. I have been away, far and away, for a long time. But since we're back, hit me with the rituals here. We have a subscriber here for their 32nd month. Nick, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for subscribing. Lovely to have you back. I haven't seen you in forever. Lovely to be here with you as always. We should have sent an email out that we're coming back today, but we didn't. That's okay. But folks, what's the point of it all? That we are ready to roll. We're going to be rock and rolling here today. So let's hit me in the chat with where are you at? And what are you grateful for? Nice. It's pretty awesome that we have times in life that are just great, fun, super great, delightful, silly, that kind of thing, that we have that on the palette. I think it's quite wonderful. How was my silent retreat? The answer to that is Lithuania. I'll tell you all about my silent retreat. I'll tell you. But first, I want to hear where people are at. What are they grateful for? And then we're going to do our usual thing. We'll do a meditation. I'll talk about the silent retreat. And I'll talk about my psychedelic report, most recent one. Whoa. Oh, excuse me. I think I was supposed to cover my mouth, not the microphone. But the point of it is that I'm really sleepy. I'm still sleepy. I'm still catching up. I'm still trying to get myself back in order, which is it's hard to do because life is very rich, and I'm trying to do it all and also get some sleep. So I'm actually kind of sleepy, but it's okay. I also noticed when I guided the retreat, and I'll shift into it now, I often had to speak from a different voice. And the voice that I spoke from there was one that was continuously trying to support people to have deeper meditation, deeper insight, deeper concentration. And it's very interesting. Alex was there. Alex knows. And in doing that, I realized that when I'm online, when I'm doing the stream, when I'm shooting videos, because they tend to want, or the videos at least, you tend to have to talk a little faster for people to feel like you're even speaking at an ordinary pace. I don't usually pull it back a little bit. So maybe today I'm going to try pulling it back a bit. I just want to see, is this talking in a slower way, a way that's more deliberate, experientially sort of nuanced, thinking about maintaining the experience of my own concentration and your concentration. Is it supportive or is it boring? Does it make you just sleepy? Is the general pep and verve of my live stream necessary? And if it's really bad, I'll just change right in the middle. So folks, we have so many people joining us here. Dave from Lithuania, Alex. And remember folks, where are you at? What are you grateful for? Alex, hello, stoked you're to be here from Portland. Okay, great. There we go. It was a little bit of a walk. We're getting there. From Portland. Grateful for those who've gone before. I wonder, in what way? Do you mean people, fallen soldiers in the realm of Dharma, or just people who've meditated in the past for us? Scott Nesbitt, Bay Area. Grateful for that I'm back. Oh, well, that's very sweet. I'm grateful I'm back too. I'm surprised actually. It came very close to having to cancel today. I had to cancel Monday. I was like, we're coming back Monday. And I was like, totally wrecked. Couldn't even possibly. I wouldn't have been able to get the computer going. Okay. I also have to reprogram myself because I'm so used to being here, and I'm like, we're on Twitch. There's a certain momentum. We've got to maintain that momentum because that's our job. But it's really helpful to remember the power of modeling what I'm describing. Okay, we have Scott Nesbitt, Bay Area. Welcome. Grateful I'm back. Aaron, here from Indiana, also on the retreat. Grateful for friends. Lovely, as always, Scott Nesbitt. I like the slow talking. Wonderful. I think it's supportive. Okay, and just remind me. See, now you guys have to remind me to keep my concentration up. You think my teachings are great, not boring at all. No, I think what it is that I tend to feel like if we're on the live stream, we're live, dead air, silence, slowing down in terms of delivery is against the rules. And I forgot, it was interesting, so I'll talk about this more after, but doing the retreat, guiding the retreat was such an incredible exercise in looking at parts. I was talking about parts as the content, but internally watching parts that were like, something's wrong, that was the big part, something's wrong, and I was just like letting that part rest. I was like, oh, I see you, of course, yeah, that makes sense that you'd feel that way, you've been worried for a long time. And then other parts would just come online, and it was like, it seems weird, like I'm sort of like talking about how great I am, which is not, it's weird to basically speak from a place of like confidence and success without it sounding like, oh my God, I'm the best, I'm so important in some way. But it was the case that when I'd sort of let go in this certain way, this part would take over that was like, it's like it was speaking in poetry, like it would just like speak in this way that I was like, it was so effective for me. And I could just like basically sit back and watch this part kind of do what it does. It's very powerful. So folks, today we're going to meditate. We're going to be doing some true self practice today. And I had a couple ideas. I was going to write them down, but oh yeah, I have a writing surface here. I can use that. This is a full book. This is a not full book. Okay. So that I was thinking about even doing 2 meditations today, but I don't know that I have time for that. How about that? How about them apples? Is that a thing? Am I correct? Oh no, the phrase is, how about them apples? Not, I don't know about them apples. We should just make up our own bullshit phrases. Yes, like the well gone one and such, I see. Reporting back and helping new ones along. That is true. That's lovely. Okay. So what's the point here? Oh, so non-self. See, this is what I had hoped to record a while ago for my Monday night group. Non-self and true self. What I had made before was something where we do the self as an object and then compare it to the whole. So self compared to the whole, and then world compared to the whole, because the world is not the whole. And then the other one was, I think I want to do the second one. I was going to ask you guys which one do you want to do, but I have a preference. But if you have a strong preference, we can go in that direction. But I always find my preference always wins. I'm always like, what's up with that? I've never had the case where I've been like, hey guys, we could do these 2 different meditations. I'm even slightly leaning maybe towards this one. Maybe it's like universally everyone's like, let's do that one. So it's interesting. World is not the whole. So in this context, I'll give a little context in a second. I just want to write this down because my mind, I'm extra spacey after this retreat, which if you guys know me, then you know that that's like absurd. Okay. I'm also sleepy, so that kicks in. True self. Oh yeah. Okay, great. That's what I want to do. So the point of it is, though, folks, that okay. So when we're talking about, one of the practices you can do is you're labeling, this is me, this is the world. This is me, this is the world. This is the sense of the world. When we talk about the world, it seems like when we refer to the whole, because we're referring to everything, but remember that it's not just the world, it's any sense of inside or outside. It's basically just everything. That's why we talk about it being the whole rather than it being like the world and all the things in the world. It's like dividing it up again. So that's the context. Does that make sense? Does that clarify there, Dave? That's the case here. But the meditation I think I want to do today is around self and true self, rather. just true self. And what it really is connecting with kind awareness and then seeing at any given moment, does it feel like I'm sitting in the kind awareness, or does it feel like I am the kind awareness? And it's two different relationships to the same experience. And they're significant, the difference between the two. When we're in the kind awareness, we just want to sit there and let go and just be like, oh, so wonderful to be held and to not have to do anything and just let go infinitely into the kind awareness. When we are the kind awareness, we just want to recognize, okay, yeah, this is my nature. This is how this, of course, I can detect this because it is my nature. I couldn't detect it otherwise. Okay. So we're going to be going back and forth between those two. Any questions about those things that I just said out loud with my mouth? I hear no questions. Everyone's silent on the internet. Also, the stream needs work, guys. The stream could be so rad, and it's like right now, it's like it's just not there. Just not there. It's not bad. It's not a bad thing. But it's like I could be interviewing people, or I could be having people on for discussion, and blah blah blah. What I think I want to do is hire someone, or ask someone to volunteer or whatever, who will help organize discussions. I have a bunch of people in mind, but it's always this thing of, okay, contact the person, the thing, and schedule the thing, and blah blah blah, and set it up, and I think setting up stuff like that would be really, really helpful if people are open to, people want to volunteer, setting up a kind of thing where we'd be like just sitting down talking with people. We just have like nice combos. That'd be really fun. I think if we really get used to doing that, we can create a really cool archive of videos. I think we can create like a really nice resource. But right now, I basically sit down to do the live stream, and like you saw, I just like took notes. Okay, we're going to do this. Like I had to do it during the live stream. I could like even that like 2 minutes of thing, because I'm just so busy outside of the live stream. So yeah, if folks want to participate in that, folks want to be part of creating a kind of conversation network of people to talk to about different topics and that kind of thing. Learn from other teachers, find out what their shtick is, have them on, chit chat like kitty cats. That would be really cool, I think, but I'm not there, and I would love your support. Let me know if that's the kind of thing you want to do. Okay, folks, let's do some meditation. I'm so excited. It's been so long, my meditation bell was sitting upside down on the counter. What kind of world is that? And my meditation striker stick was balancing a quarter. A quarter was just leaning against it. What kind of sick, twisted world is this? Okay, find a nice, comfortable position that you can maintain for the duration of the sit. We'll be sitting for about 25 minutes. I'm going to encourage everyone, every single one of you, to keep the body entirely still unless you feel moved to move it, and in which case I'm going to encourage you to do so slowly, mindfully, that kind of thing. And then we will go from there. Okay, and we're going to wait until Scott Nesbin is ready. Scott, let us know when you're ready. When you're ready. Scott fell asleep, and we're going to be waiting for another 25 to 30 minutes. That will be the whole stream. Okay. All right. And hopefully, Scott, that gave you a little bit of shot of adrenaline. I should ask who's feeling sleepy, and I'll have them be the person. Actually, I'll just ask who's feeling sleepy, and then I might pick them as a person, so it'll be just adrenaline. They're like, oh my God, I might get picked. Maybe we'll have a race. Maybe that would be fun. Okay, we're trying something new. Everyone who has a keyboard, type ready into the chat, but don't hit send yet. Okay? You can't cheat. The second you hear the sound of this muted bell, I'm going to do it once, but this doesn't count. Yeah, that's going to be the sound. That means go. You're going to hit enter. You don't hit enter yet. I'll know you're cheating. I won't know. I will know, because I know. I want to see everyone who has a keyboard. I want to see who's first. Let's see who's second, who's last. Okay. Wait, it hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened yet. Alex, hold on. Put it in the chat. Don't hit enter. See, out of all the people here, I didn't expect this from you. Cheating ahead of the game. We haven't started the game. It's not, cheating has to fit within the bounds of the game for it to work. Okay. Okay, get ready. Everyone is ready. Okay? You have no idea when I'm going to do this. Okay. It was an example. It was an example of what would happen. Oh, okay. All right. All right. Good. Everybody's ready. All right, guys, let's meditate. Welcome to the Deep Mindfulness Collective. If you need more information, you could find it at deepmindfulness.io. Beginning by taking a few comfortable deep breaths, just settling into the feeling of the body rising and falling. This is the reset, where we allow ourselves to start time again. All other moments are just a memory. We have this particular moment. As you allow the body to simply breathe, allowing the breath to be slower than whatever's going on. So this might sound vague, but there tends to be a general speed of the mind. So let the breath feel slower than our overall experiencing. Letting the belly and side ribs expand, letting the chest and shoulders rise. Breathing in, holding the breath for a few seconds, letting the breath fall fully away as the slight compression in the belly as the breath falls out. And starting the process over. Letting awareness simply take in all of our experience, resting in this openness. And recognizing the kind nature of this awareness, how welcoming and open it is. how compassionate a space this is, in that it will allow any part of ourselves It's as though the space were saying from its nature, of course, of course. And if any part of us feels separate from that space, of course. Simply letting that kind awareness pass right through any experience that feels separate. And so at any given moment, we're going to have one of two relationships to kind awareness. If we can find it, if we can contact it, it's either a sense that we are resting within it. There is some subtle sense of me, and we ourselves are resting in that space as though it were a kind of warm nest, holding us, comforting us, accepting us. This is the state that is often described as a kind of refuge. Recognizing that we can return to this kind awareness as a kind of home. So for today, that will be our label. So we return to this kind of awareness, simply identifying it as home. A place that we can return to over and over for the rest of our lives. Noticing if there's any sense of relief. It can often feel palpably relieving. And if that happens to be the case, just going with that. In the mind, every few moments, when we connect with that sense of kind awareness as something we could return to for the rest of our lives, a place we can abide. In the mind, we can simply label that as home. And at other times, it won't feel so much like we are resting in the kind awareness so much as that it is us. I am my true self, am this kind awareness, the small self that I usually refer to as not visiting this space. This is just the space of true being, true self. A space of self where there's little space for a self. In this case, often it can feel like the center drops away. It's more spatial. The space can feel much more undefined. No need to be defined. It doesn't need to be infinite. But the boundaries are simply melted into that awareness. In that case, we could label the experience nature, or we could label the experience me. Both mean the same thing in this case. The one concern is if we use the second label of those two, me, it can reinforce a sense of a center, because that's usually what we're referring to when we use that term. So I like using the word nature, referring to that this is my nature. This is who I am when I don't need to have a self. At any given moment, we're either resting in that kind awareness, or there's a recognition that we ourselves are the kind of awareness. Notice if there's any sense that one is better than the other. They're both nature, and if there is a craving for one, often the second one, just recognize that as also nature, just the self wanting like they often do. Of course there's a wanting that sounds very lovely. Of course. If it feels like we're mainly just resting in the home space, just resting in the kind of awareness, being sure that we're allowing ourselves to be aware in all directions. This can often help the center feel a little softer. And considering for a moment if there is some sense of separateness of me in the middle and kind of awareness out there, just reaching in all directions and asking our senses, what is it that we're separate from? This can often draw the two together. There's the me in the middle. What is that me not fully connected with? What's the thing it's reaching out and resting within? And it's often the case that this will bring the kind awareness within the sense of self, rather than surrounding it, letting it pass right through. And that way we can reach out in all directions and let the kind awareness enter in as it answers the question, what is the separation? What is it that this self in the middle is separate from? And alternatively, we can allow the kind awareness to effectively reach in, finding any part of us that still feels stable and solid, and letting that awareness pass through that. Remembering that awareness is often experienced is very closely linked to our spatial recognitions, and noticing the space that we ourselves take up, the space that anything that remains that feels solid takes up, and allowing that to be there. We're not trying to obliterate anything that feels solid, but letting the awareness just simply pass right through. If we drift away, this is a very soft kind of practice. Simply knowing the nature of this kind of awareness clearly. Knowing that it is our nature to perceive it, of course. It is. There's no way that we could perceive the experience of this kind of awareness unless it was some way part of our own very nature. being sure we include the observer, or the sense of a perspective from which we observe. Anything that remains, the observer, the perception, the clarity, without trying to get rid of anything, just simply knowing that that is included. Labeling the experience as either home or nature, or if we find that the labels themselves are solidifying or dividing our experience, which can be the case, we can skip those, just staying with the experience. Including any sense of space, of time. We often forget to include time as something that's allowed to be fed back into the meditation. A sense that time is passing, a sense that time is moving forward. There's often a sense that time is moving forward for someone. From some perspective, it is moving forward. So looking at that perspective, letting that fold into the kind awareness, letting it pass right through whatever sliver of an understanding self or an observer remains. And if there's any sense of a doer, or a subtle perceiver, or a me, time or space, one hand, we can simply let the kind awareness pass through. On another hand, we don't need to do anything at all. It is simply the nature of being. So let's try that for a few moments. No need to do anything at all. Dropping any technique. Allowing the eyes to open if they are not already, letting them rest on a single point. Letting the spaciousness, the transparency of seeing, let as we see right through the space. Letting that transparency, that spaciousness show us how anything that's solid itself is transparent in the same way. And in that way, allowing this particular moment to be the great teacher. Shows us how we might bring this practice into every aspect of our life. Allow yourself to stretch. Let that transparency continue on in your experience. And we'll go into reports. I'm going to encourage folks, especially if you are at the retreat, to jump onto the Discord, which is about to be open. And where is the thing? Here it is. Oops. Okay, starting that now. Let's see, in the chat, where's the chat? Where's the chat? Oh, there it is. Here's the Discord. Okay, you can jump in if you want. Yes, anyone who's at the retreat or anyone else, jump on the Discord, and we'll be curious to hear your reports. Dave, we're going to bring you in here. Here we go. Let me know if you can hear me. Oh, hold on one second. The audio's in the wrong place. I don't know why all the audio things got... Hello? 1 sec. Hold on. Computer audio. Why is it there? Doesn't make sense. 1 sec. Hold on. Okay, try it again. Try to speak, Dave. I don't hear you at all. Let's try it again. No. See, it's coming out of the Rift headset, which is not where it's supposed to be. How about now? Say hello again.
Hello?
Okay, hold on 1 second. Okay, microphone. 1 sec, buddy. No, not default. Okay, you should be able to hear me now, but
yes, now I can hear you.
and then the okay, say something now. Okay, then we have to hold on, we have to fix it on the Computer audio. Okay, try saying something again.
Hello?
There we go. All set. Fixed.
Okay, that's good.
Great.
So, yeah, hello, Janus.
Hello,
Thank
hello.
you for the meditation.
Absolutely.
Hosting it. It's very awesome. Doing it more, the kind of awareness practice. I am like performing better. I included things before I couldn't include.
Good.
So I noticed, for example, time
Great.
it's kind of new to me to include. So that's interesting. Yeah, it's a little bit hard to like include time, but I don't know. Can you like explain more a little bit about time, or is it like not necessary to understand it better?
You don't necessarily need to understand it better, but it does make sense that it's hard because it takes a lot of concentration to be so stable that you can then be saying, oh, look, there is time. But it's once before you see it, it's like you're like, what are you talking about? That's so weird and abstract. How are you going to include time? Like, it just seems like a weird thing. But everything feels like it's occurring in time. It's so prevalent that it's like a water and fish, like it's trying to explain water to a fish. It's like, well, but everything seems like it takes time. My words are kind of unfolding in time. There is a past, there is a future. My words are like maybe a little bit in the present, but the mind is tracking the meaning from the past, and everything feels like it's taking time. It's happening in time. Anything that occurs, it feels like it's taking a duration. So that is an experience, and
Yeah,
it's hard, it's helpful to recognize that awareness can pass through that experience, can pass through any experience.
it's like a flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, yeah, when you said like about transparency, I looked at the wall with my open eyes, and then I try to like let my awareness pass through that wall. And then I noticed separately, I noticed the mental image. And then when I view what's behind the wall, it's empty. So is it good to define that it's black?
Well, I wouldn't say this, it's black. You'd say maybe it's not active, right? So it's like,
Yeah, it's like empty. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
and
yeah.
that's as analog and dumb as it seems. The fact that the mind can pass through objects just spatially is very, very important. So in the retreat, I kept talking about the two things of like, so anything that still remains solid and anything that seems like it's consistent, like it's there's a constant. I think it's always there. There's a sense of it always being there. Both of those are, mind projections. So anything that seems solid, the mind can pass right through it. So that's a very powerful. It's very powerful.
So does awareness does have a shape, right?
I mean, awareness is sort of like its nature is that it de-shapes everything. Like awareness, sort of, but it's if you want to get really tricky, or you want to get really particular, it's almost actually as though awareness takes on different layers of density. It's like one is where it's transparent, and one is when it feels very solid. When it feels very solid, it feels just like our regular world, our regular lives and ourselves. But we forget that that's the same material. It's the same. It is awareness sort of organizing itself in the form of something solid. Maybe I'll pull up a video of this, because I've talked about this many times. I'm going to pull up this video. Okay, that's not. I was listening to Mitch Hedberg on YouTube, which was great.
Sometimes I see awareness like a bubble, like a black bubble.
Yeah. Okay, is this the one? Oh yeah. Okay, this is the video. Okay, I'm gonna play this in the other screen so everyone can see it. Where's the other window? There it is. Uh-oh. There we go. Okay, I'm not going to make it any bigger. It's fine. Okay, I want you to watch this video for a second. It's a couple of minutes long. I mean, I won't watch the whole thing.
Sure.
Oh, wait, is this the... Wait, this is not the thing I was thinking it was. Okay, I want the sand table, my friends. The sand table. That's not the scene. Where's the sand table, folks? They have all these scenes from Black Panther. I just want to see the damn sand table. Advanced technology. Where is this thing? All right, well, I guess they can't. Anyway, have you seen the movie Black Panther?
Yeah, I've seen it once.
Okay. So in that movie, you know that there are, what's it called? There's the sand table where they communicate, right? It's like a communication machine, and they'll like appear and they'll be like, hello, but it's just like sand sort of in a shape. You've seen that, right? Do you remember that?
Oh, I literally forgot about it.
Anyway,
Yeah,
it's like a
maybe.
little table, and this little sand figure will come up and be like, hello, this is your leader from Wakanda, and then it'll disappear and just be like a pile of sand. This is a lot of how,
Oh, yeah.
This
Yeah,
is
I
how
remember.
awareness works, where it's like suddenly it's solid, and it's the shape of a table, and it's the shape of my friend, and the shape of the world, and then it sort of turns back into dust. It's helpful to know it's the same material. So we could say awareness is spacious and empty and etc., but awareness is also just, it is the solidity of all those things.
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's the same material in a certain sense. So awesome. Okay, awesome, Dave. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's
Thank you for your report.
that clarifies for me as
Good.
well. Yeah, thank you so much
Excellent.
for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to put you back in the audience. Then, if anyone else wants to report on what their meditation was like, what happened, what you're like now, we'll go from there. I do not have the. Let's close this failed attempt at showing a video. Let's see here. Okay, folks, I want to do two things. Let's transition. One, I want to report briefly, very briefly, on the retreat itself. This is why I was saying that people who were at the retreat, if they want to report what their experience was like, you can, because it's truly, people, I don't know what your experience was. And people here definitely don't know what your experience was. This is one thing. Second thing, I want to give a psychedelic report, which is much more involved. So I'm going to try to, in a sense, speed through the retreat, which is crazy because the retreat was so extremely impactful on me, and it seemed like it was the case for other people. So the retreat, basically, it's amazing how many times I changed what I was planning on teaching, given how clear it is to me that it was the right decision, what I chose. And I'm surprised I didn't come to that earlier. For a long time, I just had all these different ideas. I was going to teach this and that, because for years I'd wanted to teach certain things. And I was like, you know what? I think the best thing to do would be is just teach my progression of how things move, from observing the world as an object and seeing that object as part of the whole, to recognizing that whole itself is welcoming by its nature, and then just like really slowly walking people kind of through that simple progression with like no frills, nothing extra. We're just simply doing basically, TNT, whole part kind of awareness, and that's basically it. In the mornings we would do chanting. We would do chanting, and the chanting would be see, hear, feel, which is really fun. Forgive me, I haven't eaten breakfast, so I need more water. But the point of it is that chanting, breakfast, we would do chanting in the morning, and it was only in like the last day, really the last day, we finally like got it. Like there's a sense of like rhythm and intensity that comes with chanting that it felt like we just didn't get. I mean, it's good. And the last day we like nailed it. I was like, okay, now I know we can get there. We're going to get there on the second day of the next retreat, which the next retreat right now is tentatively planned for November on the East Coast. That's currently the plan. Alex has a report here. Oh, people are also welcome to give a report if you'd like in the chat about the retreat or anything you want, about your meditation, anything at all. We have a report here from Alex. Let's see if the computer will read this to the stream.
Noticing a felt difference between being in kind awareness and being kind awareness. When separate, there is a sense of contraction across the edges of my body, like the container is trying to hold itself together and it's relatively uncomfortable. Whereas being kind awareness feels like that contraction lets go and either turns into expansion or softens the borders to a large amorphous homeostasis.
Nice, lovely. Yeah, and just noticing the difference and noticing the preference. Oh, no, this is the good one. Obviously, this is more advanced, or this is more, and it's actually just not. It's actually just a different shape. It's just less familiar often, so it feels like, oh, that's advancement. But really, to see the two together. Okay, right now I have a self, and I'm held within this space, and in this other version, we are, There is no, the space itself gets sort of consumed within itself, sort of eats its own tail. Alex says, also, having trouble labeling when being in kind awareness. Like I can't conjure the words at all. That's why I mentioned that note about if the labels are too disjointed or just cutting up our experience, then don't use them, because that can be the case. We can know the experience very clearly, and then to then say, okay, now I need to muster up a label that is this thing, can be kind of hard. So that's why I say you can drop labels if you need to. It's not terribly uncommon that that's the case. Okay. What else? Okay, so let me jump in here with... okay, so I was talking about the retreat. It went beautifully well, and I don't know if I talked about this very much to the retreatants. I talk a little bit after to folks who stayed after, but for me, it's really, really interesting, and it's hard to talk about this. I feel like I like the live stream because I will talk about things that are very personal at a level that I almost they're not really cooked yet, so I'm not really ready to talk about them kind of publicly, but this is public. I don't know why I feel like it's different here, but it really was a powerful lesson in parts that were like, something's really, really wrong, and this is bad, and we shouldn't be doing this, and we're an imposter and whatever. And the other parts were like, yeah, of course. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And it makes me realize that I have a very strong feeling that those same kind of drives, etc., are going on with every teacher, or most teachers, when they do something that's significant, or they have to give a big talk or something like that, and that it's just managed or ignored, or it's just eating them alive in the background. Maybe that's the case. But it's really interesting because I had to give the Dharma talks in this retreat, and before getting to the retreat, the part that was like basically the anxious part, it's so, I have such a long history of being like identify with that part that it will come online. I won't even know it's there. I'll just be like, oh, it's just hard to get this work done. It's hard to get myself to, I just got to focus, but it's hard to focus. And in the end, I'll look back and realize, oh, it's just this little kid that's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So in the retreat, it was this very interesting thing of like, okay, I've got to write these talks. And the part that was nervous about it, like delayed, and I couldn't do the work beforehand. But at some point, I don't know what it was, but I just made this like matrix of like, here's the things, and here's the talk, like here's the subjects, and here's the talks, and here's the references, and here's the Buddhist context. And I just made this like quick grid in like 20 minutes. And that was what I used as my starting place to write all the talks. And all the talks I wrote basically the day of. And it was actually really useful, because I would talk to people and say, what's going on with you? What's happening? And I could really like base it off of that. And the talks were actually so easy to write. They like wrote themselves, that it was like really powerful. And then that part that was really nervous was like, no, it can't be this easy. Something's wrong, you know, blah, blah, blah. And it would go really well and be wonderful. And it'd be a sense of like, no, I think there was a mistake. It would like shoot to like, look at this one mistake you made. This is really important. It means that you failed or whatever. Just funny. So it's really interesting to watch that part and like see it really as it is, which is like a little kid that's scared. And then it was just such it was also, I went really deep personally in the retreat, where I was like walking around. It was like, man, it's like, I'm not here. Like I'm like an invisible, you know, like a wind or something like that. And it was just very powerful in that way. Just a super powerful experience. Someone asked, like, how much are you meditating? I was like, I'm just basically guiding you guys. I do the chanting in the morning, and that's it. Like, I do a little practice on my own, but I don't get to meditate. Like, I'm just running around handling stuff. You're incredibly busy, but it's super fun. So it's like, I don't know, maybe I'll get really sick of it at some point, but it's really fun. But anyway, yeah, that's it. That's the short version of my experience of the retreat. I'm sure there's a lot more to it, but it was very, very impactful for me, and clarifying on like what I like doing, what I don't like doing, what I can do well. There was one night, which I think other people had a different experience of this than I did, but I'm not sure. I was giving a talk, and I think it was on like attachment theory and like our need for like connection as a human beings, and the fact that we'll read our experiences as bad, but they're actually just, oh yeah, it's about emotion in the body, and it's like we'll read our experiences as bad when they're just like, it's just nature. And then like towards like I was like 2/3 done, and it started raining really hard, and you could hear it hit on the roof, and it was so distracting. It was so beautiful, so distracting. I like lost. I was like, I don't know what I'm talking about. It's like, let's just listen to the rain. So we're just like, okay, let's practice. And in the practice, I was like, oh, everything I'm talking about is happening like experientially right now. So I just started sort of describing the sort of beautiful poetry of existing and how it's unfolding right now, and how, you know, all the themes that we're talking about. And then at some point I realized, like, I'm just giving the whole talk like in live poetry. It was very, very cool. And I remembered that that's like a part of me that can come online, this sort of like live poetry part, which is really fun, because it's really, it's just like so fun and exciting to like to carve into the world in this like beautiful way. Very embarrassingly, there was a point in my life, maybe I shouldn't be embarrassed, but there's a point in my life when I was like in my 20s, and all my friends and I would like work on freestyle rapping. Freestyle rapping is really, really hard to do. It is insanely hard to do. It's basically almost universally, you have to unlock this part of your mind and like get out of the way, and then it constructs the world in rhymes, and it's really weird, but it works, and it's something sort of similar. I don't think it's technically as challenging, but there is something similar there. So I want to hone that skill more and more. Okay, full stop. Now let's talk about my psychedelic report from my most recent journey, which was a week after the retreat. So I was visiting people working after the retreat, doing some long form guided meditation stuff with individuals after the retreat. And then I had my own guided psychedelic journey that was on this last Saturday. It was incredibly powerful. I feel like some of this stuff is like very, very personal, and I don't know that how I feel about sort of saying some of it, but I'll give you some description so you have at least something. So as anytime I give one of these reports, I say the same thing. I just want to emphasize to people, I do not recommend that any individual do psychedelics, especially not recreationally. If you're going to participate in something like this, I would personally recommend that you do it in a way that is guided. More and more people are able to guide. More and more people are able to be sitters for you. I typically will recommend you put as much time in the preparation and in the integration period afterwards as you do in the journey itself, if not more. You know, writing about your intentions, getting clear, making sure that the setting is super duper safe, that you have someone there who can take care of you, or if you're doing it solo, that you're really, really taking care of. You don't have to think about things, you know, whatever. But really, like, the intention is really clear. Like, I've actually had a thing recently where I've been doing solo journeys, but I start the journey out with a virtual sort of session of somatic experiencing. And then I sort of, at some point towards the, not end, but towards the sort of later stage when I'm more coherent and, you know, it's kind of the arc of material is past, I'll do an hour-long virtual session with my IFS therapist. You know, I had to write my own forms for both of those people that they're not legally liable for anything, and that, you know, they're not whatever. So, but that's how I do my own self-guided ones, because that support is incredible. It compounds the experience so dramatically to be able to have someone else there and to have them reflect really elegantly with me. So that's something that I like doing. So the point of it all is that this guided experience was not that. It was guided. There was a group setting, and it was myself and a number of other people. That's what they call a group. And the medicine that was given was a combination of MDMA and Psilocybin. So again, I'm not recommending these for anyone, especially, I mean, you just want to do a full like psych work through on yourself and be really clear if this is safe for you, because it's just not safe for everyone. And, you know, like certain medications can't mix with certain things. And, you know, the way I do it is very, very trauma informed, because you can re-traumatize yourself in like subtle ways. So I don't recommend just being like, whatever, I'm just going to, if I take a lot, it'll be great, or something like that. Like, you want it to be pretty carefully thought through. So, and people feel free to ask any questions in the chat, or if you want, I can even open the Discord. Well, there's one person in the Discord here. Eric. Hello, Eric. Welcome. I'm just giving a psychedelic report. If you want to ask any questions or share anything, just raise your hand and I can pop you in. We're on Twitch right now live, so twitch.tv/deepmindfulness if you want to come over there, either one. Okay, so it was a combination of the two medicines. It started with MDMA, and then a little while later I took the the psilocybin, and I was sort of just like laying there, like kind of like, okay, like vibing and really slowing my breathing down to control the intensity, which is, I think it's the psychedelic work that made me really clear how much doing the slow breathing actually really affects the nervous system, because it's so clear, like, oh, I'm getting a little overwhelmed, and you slow the breathing, it's like, oh no, this is absolutely fine. It's such a huge switch. It's like an order of magnitude less intense. So it started to be this thing where I had all this like super intense energy. Okay, this is the TMI part that I was like, this is sort of weird, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So it's everything comes up during journeys. So this is some weird thing. Hopefully this isn't weird for people, but this is what came up. So what started happening is that there was all of this like weird, I feel embarrassed talking about this, all this weird like sexual energy that started coming up in this journey. And I've had people report that to me before, and that's normal. So, but anyway, it was just sort of energy. It was just like, okay, and it felt like it was of that nature. And one of the guides was like, how are you doing? And I described what I just said. I was like, oh, it's sort of like this. And I was like, should I like sublimate that, or should I like put that in a direction like that's like not, and this is this sweet person who's like this lady who's has a huge history of like Grateful Dead concerts. That's kind of one of her hallmarks, is like how many shows she's been to. And she's like, sometimes you just got to put your hands down your pants and see what happens. Okay. So I didn't do that, but I got the principle, which was that to let whatever this is just go. Don't try to manage it. Don't try to control it. And I was just like, okay. And it was just like, it was really intense, and it sort of transitioned out of being like sexual and just being like intense energy. And the likelihood is very, very high that this is identical to what would be described as like a kundalini kind of energetic thing, which is often associated with sexuality, etc. Often associated also with the arising and passing in Buddhism, but it was not. Anyways, there's something different about it. But basically, it felt almost like the level of like just being electrocuted, not unpleasant, very pleasant, just like my whole body like super intense. And this is for like 4 hours. At some point, a guide came up to me, because there's like 3 guides in the room. A guide came up to me and was like, hey, do you want to go to the other room, which is like the big experience room is what it's called. And I was like, am I making sound? And they're like, yeah. I was like, oh, like, but I didn't even realize it. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I went to the other room, and it was like just really intense, really this material like passing through me. And then there's this whole montage of different moments throughout my life. Oh, actually, let me just jump back 1 second. So before I went to the other room, one of the guides said, I told him what's going on. He's like, okay, you're doing great. And then there was a sense of like feeling inside the space of him is like, oh my God, you have so much like friendship space inside of you. It's like this big open, I was like, it's so wonderful. It's like a big open space for friendship. And it was just interesting, whatever that was, but it was just probably finding that within myself and, sensing it's going through him. And then he's like, okay, great. He's like, before I go, I'm just going to hold you like in this way. And he like put one hand under my neck and then one hand under the small of my back. He's like, just like relax into that. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't realize I could, and I like let go at a level that was like super crazy. And what I realized is that if we think about, there's the experience from awake awareness, there's the experience from parts that are wounded. They're like, ow, 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 and the world hurts and this kind of thing, which are kind of, in a sense, the ones that are the most, come to the foreground the most for me. And then there's this other version, which is like the operating self that is very often there, that's often like in the seat of having to do things. And it was that part that was like resting in that person's hands. And I was like, I didn't realize this part could let go this much. And as it let go, it was this thing of like all of this like love and like compassion and like joy and like freedom and like power rushing in. It was like, oh my God, like I have unbelievable amounts of like love, and there's this sense of being loved from every part of the universe, and that God itself is love, and I believe and don't believe, so I'm using that term just like I use it pretty liberally. It's, you don't have to believe. Sometimes I don't believe, sometimes I do. But so it's just this thing of like all these things coming together. So eventually I make it over to the other room, and I'm sort of laying there on the floor, and I'm like, whoa, like, and it's like a catalog of all these moments throughout my life where there was this really poignant, like sort of connection, a sense of something like really, really being right. And there's this one story that I've told many times about drawing this line when I was like 17 and recognizing that if I cared more, the line looked more beautiful. And that was like, something struck me in that moment. Is like, I want to be an artist. Like, that's all I want to do for the rest of my life. And of course I changed that into being a meditation teacher at some point, but that was the moment that I was like, I want to be an artist. And for the next like at least decade, I every thought that I had, everything was like towards like, what does it mean to make artwork? That's all I'm thinking about. And in the journey, I saw that line, and I saw like through the line, and there's like this light or like something coming through, this life coming through the crack of the line that it was making. And it was like, oh, that was the universe telling you that you're loved from the very beginning. It was always there. And I was like, oh my God, like, it was like so cool, this thing. And then I had all these like logistical things that were really complex and like really challenging. I have some really complex, challenging personal logistical things that are happening right now. Some of them legal, some of them whatever, just like stuff that you deal with if you have like a complex business. And my mind was just like like solving all of these like through like peaceful means, like, oh no, just do this and this and this. And it was like coming up with a list of resolutions for all this stuff, which was great because it was like those things were on my mind. And long conversations where I was just like talking into my phone and being like, hey, I just wanted to talk to you about this, like to my sister and to different people, and like, you know, really cool, like just saying like, I wanted to tell you about this and I love you so much, and you know, different people, and like resolving issues with other people. Not that I necessarily am going to send all these notes out to people, but it really felt like I could, you know, resolve it to some degree. And then what else? Oh, I want to go back a step. So this group that we did this with, it was a training, and the training it's around basically looking at this material, looking at the guiding material from a spiritual perspective rather than a therapeutic perspective, which is, I mainly use this for therapy. But it was, you know, it was basically like this a workshop beforehand. And so one of the workshop that we did beforehand was around the shadow and like your shadow self and like these things. And I've come to realize like, I don't really like the metaphor and the sort of use of the idea of shadow. It feels very old timey, but whatever. That's what we're doing. And one of the exercises is so, like, when I even think about it, it feels very like cringy, but people had to like paint their shadow on their face, their shadow self, the part that's like the conflicted and yucky and the thing that they hide away, right? They had to paint that on their face. And then you had to do a dance. You had to do an interpretive dance of that shadow. And I was like, oh my God, like it's like so weird. But I was like, okay, like I guess this is what I signed up for, so this is what I'll do. And I tried to not be too resistant, but it ends up that I painted this like sweet fox on my face. And I was like, and I had this sense, if I look at the part that is the most sort of stuffed away, which I have pretty close connection with, if I just look at that part from the place of kind awareness, it's just this super cute little kid that's like, wow, what do I do? And like, and then it kind of messes up the works if it like is sort of left to do its own thing. But from that perspective, it's just this super adorable, sweet little kid. And a lot of other people not everybody, but a lot of other people painted like their face like really dark and scary and X's over their eyes and stuff like that, which is totally valid. But I realized after that it was just not my experience of, if I come from like my highest self, it's like every part is actually a beautiful little kid. Like everyone is like wonderful. They just get up to trouble when they're just left alone because they're scared and alone. And so they're like, I have to judge people, or I have to do X, Y, and Z. So the point of it is that in the journey, I got a really clear sense of like, this is the fox, this joy, this thing is like, yes, it's like, it's this little kid sort of living at its fullest, sort of extent. And there's also some stuff about the part that had experienced some very significant trauma and sexual trauma, et cetera, when I was a child, like wanting to be free and feeling like it just always had to, in a sense, be focused on the trauma. So there's a lot of that freedom coming up. It might be the same thing, actually. It might be the same part. And then finally, the retreat, the journey ends, and they're like, okay, like, are you okay getting up? Because I was still in this like really intense like process. They're like, are you okay getting up? Like, joining the group, this kind of thing. I was like, yeah, let's go. I was just like ready to roll. I was like, let's go. And then the journey ended, and I was like, I just was like really social. I wanted to say hi to everybody, and I was really like, And it just felt like that little fox was like alive, and it was like really empowered. And I was like, yay, the world. And like I came back and I was like, yay, the world, like excited and happy about existing, which is really nice because I feel like the parts that struggle are often like, oh, the world, so often I'm just like opening up to those parts. So that was my journey report. After the retreat, I've had to like, I don't know if it's related to the journey or anything, but it's like my life has a lot of moving pieces, and it's been hard to reintegrate like what's happening, what's going on, like getting things sort of settled in place. I feel like I needed like another week off after that to not have to do anything at all. That, my friends, is the overall and total and complete psychedelic report for that journey. The ayahuasca retreat is a whole complex video that just isn't finished yet, which is another project that I want to be generally working on pretty quickly and continuously is the videos, but we're going to smooth some things out. We got to make things work. So folks, any questions, comments, queries, challenges, or concerns about my report just now? Anything you have questions about? If not, I think I kind of went over everything. Okay, Alex says the following.
At one point I was pretty absorbed in a sit and you came to sit on the dais and your Buddha field wave washed over me and turned it up to 11.
Nice.
Also, the talks were straight fire.
Aw.
Very moving and impactful.
Thanks so much. So sweet. Also, Alex, your letter that you wrote after the class on Monday was like I wrote back, but it was like so super moving. It was like really sweet and helpful and kind. It's very kind of you. Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for hearing it. That's really, really nice. Okay, any other questions, comments, queries, challenges, or concerns? I should probably jump off. Actually, I'm probably over. Just make sure I don't have something coming up right now because that's always like terrifying. Yeah, I should go soon. I got to walk the dog and all that good stuff. Awesome, folks. Okay, great. Great to see you here. We're going to be back here in fewer than 48 hours. Hang out again. Have good times. So let us now listen to some outro music. Folks, lovely to be here with you as always. Nice to see you. Take a moment right now to let that kind awareness expand into your experiential field. Oh, 72, you're right. Fewer than 72 hours. It is Friday, my dudes. Okay, we'll be back here in fewer than 72 hours. Thank you for the reminder. Let that kind of awareness, anything that feels solid right now, let that kind of awareness simply pass right through it. Doesn't have to make it not exist, just let it pass through any experience. The wonder and joy of that experience, the splendor of existing, that's a hallmark of awakening. Oh yeah, and don't forget, all emojis are entirely visible in this outro section, so you're welcome to spam us with emojis as per usual. Why is this doing this? Oh, there we go. Okay, folks, practice well. Take care of each other. Have fun. We'll see you all very, very soon. Bye-bye.